Good evening, everybody. Time for a look at three more linebackers. Just three more, and we're done. And tomorrow we're moving on to a new position. So, let's start with the linebackers. Dee Winters. TCU, recently of a national championship berth, 22 years old. Definitely undersized, only 5'11", 227 pounds. Arms, 31 and 5/8 inches. Small hands, for whatever that's worth, I guess. But his combine was pretty good. He ran a nice little 40 time, sub 4.5, 1.56 10-yard split, pretty explosive. His jumps, not so much. 30.5 inches on his vert, 9 foot 9 inch on his broad, not very good. But definitely intriguing speed, at least. And one big board that I follow really likes him. The Draft Network has him 116th. Everyone else has him in like the 5th or the 6th or the 7th, in that range. So he's probably going to get drafted. Probably a late day 3 pick. If I had to guess, I'd say he's probably like a 6th round pick. Over the last 2 years, he's played in 27 games, amassed a decent number of tackles. The most recent year, he became a big-time backfield playmaker. 14.5 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks. Dee Winters started out as a safety, and he's got some coverage skills from what he was doing as a safety. He's got some good ball skills as well. Can make plays on the ball, take it away. He's very flexible with how he aligns and where he's used. He lines up as an edge rusher, lines up as a box linebacker, lines up as a cornerback, lines up all over the place. Very flexible in that regard. He's a good athlete. He shoots gaps really, really well. Like, you can have him line up over a gap and just shoot through it. He's very quick at the snap. Very good at that kind of stuff. He can do zone coverage and man coverage. Overall, I'd say he's a good tackler. So there is quite a bit to like with Dee Winters. But with a lot of these undersized linebackers, this is what I say, and it's the case here too, he's not very good against the run. Both physically, he can get manhandled by blockers. He's not going to be good at shedding blocks. They're going to just kind of manhandle him. And he needs to be a little more decisive. It seems like he's very indecisive when he's deciding whether or not to trigger downfield on a running back. So he's going to have to improve his decision making. He's going to have to improve how quickly he processes information on running plays. And then he can become a full-time player. But as of right now, he's a passing down linebacker. But he is a playmaker. He is somebody who I think will probably benefit more from being able to play weak side linebacker in a 4-3. But his coverage skills and blitzing ability, I think, makes him worth it in the very late rounds, even for a team like the Seahawks that is currently running the Fangio defense. So I would say if you're in the 6th round and he's still there, Dee Winters, I'd kind of be all over that. I would be intrigued by that. It's not a perfect fit, but his skills are clear. Okay, now we're moving on to Mikel Jones of Syracuse. The Syracuse Orange could not find his age. 6'1", 229 pounds, long arms, 33.25-inch arms, very nice for a linebacker. 10.25-inch hands. Did not test he actually did not get invited to the combine. These are numbers from, I think, his pro day. They're not very good. 30-inch vertical, 9-foot 5-inch broad, 7.21 3-cone, 4.57 20-yard shuttle, and 18 bench press reps. So he didn't test particularly well. Most big boards do not have him listed. The ones that do, that I saw, PFF and the Draft Network, had him going undrafted. The mock draft database has him going anywhere from the very, very back of the 7th round to a priority UDFA, basically. He's played in a lot of games over the last 2 years, and he actually makes a lot of plays in the backfield. He averages nearly 1 tackle for loss in every game he plays for Syracuse, and he has 7 sacks. So he does have some splash numbers. He has made some splash impact on that defense. Even though he didn't test very quickly, he does play pretty fast. He is willing to take on blockers. That is something that I notice. He's willing to take on blockers, especially on inside gap runs, and hold up. He's not somebody who's going to get completely pushed out of the play by a blocker. He's got good range against the run. He's got good instincts against the run. He's smart in zone coverage. And he navigates traffic well. And like I said, his long arms are going to help when he engages with a blocker. So even though this guy's undersized, sub 230 for a linebacker that is undersized, this guy actually holds up pretty well against the run. So that's a little bit different from the guys we've been looking at in this series for the most part. Issues, he's not fast enough to hold up in man coverage. If he tries to man up against like an athletic tight end, is going to run right past him. Even though he did amass quite a few sacks over the last couple years, I don't think that his pass rush ability will translate to the NFL. And there's just general inconsistency with things like angles and understanding where to be, things like that. It just seems like he needs a little bit of time there. But this guy's interesting to me. He's probably just going to be an NFL special teamer, but there is some upside here, right? Like, this guy is undersized, but he's really physical and tough against the run. Now, at the end of the day, he's slow, and I think that's going to really limit him, but it seems like there's some potential here for him to become a full-time player. I doubt he gets there, but it's at least on the table. So, look, if he's there in the 7th round, I would be pretty excited about bringing him in there. More realistically, more reasonably, UDFA, bring him in as one of the UDFA guys. That's pretty good. I don't know. There's just something here that I like. I like the idea of a smaller guy who plays this physically. Okay, one more. Last linebacker we're going to take a look at here. This one's actually one of my favorite deep sleepers. It's Cam Jones of Indiana. 23 years old, another undersized guy, 226 pounds, not very long arms, not very big hands, and physically not an overwhelming specimen, and he didn't test well. He did go to the combine and he didn't test very well. He ran like a 4.740, not very explosive, not very strong. Okay, now you're wondering like, okay, what's so interesting about this guy? The big boards actually pretty much all have him going somewhere in the draft. PFF really likes him. They have him in the 4th. Pretty much everywhere else has him in the 6th or 7th. I expect him to go in about the 7th. And the reason why he's interesting is because he missed the second half of the year in 2022 because of a foot injury for the Hoosiers. And in those 5 games, he was averaging about 11 tackles a game. And it seemed like there was an opportunity for him to really launch himself upwards, and then he got hurt. So here's the thing with Cam Jones. He's got a strong and powerful frame. He was a big-time team leader. He was one of the captains, I believe. He was a 3-time team captain, I think. So, plus character guy, good for the locker room. He moves well on the field. Like, I know he didn't test well, and that is definitely a concern when you're playing at a school like Indiana. But he did move well all over the field. He chased running plays down frequently. Like, he played faster than he ran at the combine. He's a smart player with how he understands how to, have gap control and knows where to be and maintain discipline against the run. I think there's a really good chance here that Cam Jones was about to really make a big impact splashing onto the scene here and maybe turn himself into like maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick. And then he got hurt. Before Indiana started playing the good teams on their schedule, before they started playing teams that he could have really impressed against, he got hurt. This might be a guy who was poised to break out and become one of the more interesting linebackers in this class, and then he broke his foot. So maybe he'll have that breakout year in the NFL instead. That's possible, right? Now, the issues, he still does get swallowed up by blockers too easily, even though I think that's just kind of part and parcel of being an undersized linebacker. He does get swallowed up by linebackers. As of right now, I don't know what he can do in coverage, and I don't know what he can do as a blitzer because he didn't show that often in college. He didn't do that stuff very much. So it's hard to know if he'll be a good blitzer or a good cover player just because he didn't get asked to do it. He probably would have shown one way or the other if he didn't get hurt last year. And like I said, I don't think he tested very well. But I think that if you look at the potential versatility here with Cam Jones, there's definitely some value here. And I think if you get him in the 6th round or later, that's really good value. All right, that's it for linebackers. Moving on to a new position tomorrow. Go Hawks.